The world is racing to build a 32-kilometer canal that one drone could close in a day. $300 billion of megaprojects to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. 3 different bets. None of them have broken ground. But the real story isn't the canal. It's why the world's top energy official says the bypass infrastructure is pain relief, not a cure. Since March 2nd, 2026, 2,000 ships and 20,000 mariners have been stranded in the Persian Gulf. Hormuz traffic dropped 90%. Bab el-Mandeb closed. 20 million barrels of oil a day, rerouted or stalled. 3 megaprojects emerged in response. A 32-kilometer canal cutting through Oman's mountains. A 1,200-kilometer railway from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean via Turkey. And a pipeline Israel keeps proposing that Saudi Arabia keeps declining. The combined budget is $300 billion. What follows isn't a story about 3 projects beating Iran. It's a story about how very different bets get bundled into one headline, and which of them actually delivers when the math gets honest. The world's top energy official has already called the answer. By the end, you and I will know exactly what he meant and why a $1 per barrel premium is the real conversation. It starts with what's actually stuck. Before the war, 20 million barrels of oil moved through the Strait of Hormuz every single day. That's 20% of all the seaborne crude on the planet. Unique waterway. 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest. The most concentrated choke point in the modern petroleum system. Then, on March 2nd, 2026, that number went to almost 0. Here's the timeline that matters. March 2nd, coordinated US and Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear and missile sites trigger an immediate Iranian closure of the Strait of Hormuz. April 21st, the International Maritime Organization confirms 2,000 commercial vessels and 20,000 mariners stranded inside the Persian Gulf. May 6th, US Joint Chiefs Chairman General Kane revises the count to 22,500 mariners on more than 1,550 vessels. And by mid-April, Lloyd's List Intelligence puts daily Hormuz traffic at 5% of pre-war average. 5%. That's not a slowdown. That's a closed door, with 20,000 sailors on the wrong side of it. And there's a second choke point most coverage misses. Hormuz isn't the only one that closed. Bab el-Mandeb, the narrow strait between Yemen and Djibouti, where the Red Sea meets the Gulf of Aden, Houthi missile range covers the entire southern approach. So tankers that would normally exit Hormuz, run the Red Sea, and transit Suez to Europe, they can't. They're rerouting around the Cape of Good Hope, 10 to 14 extra days at sea, roughly $1 million in additional fuel per round trip. 2 choke points. Same week. That's the double blockade. Iran's rapid and extensive retaliation against shipping and regional energy, port, and economic infrastructure has severed a vital artery in global supply chains. Verisk Maplecroft's Middle East lead calls it a severed artery. That's the language risk analysts reserve for events with permanent downstream cost. And the wallet shows up faster than the politics. A distillate crisis, a jet fuel and diesel crisis, especially in Europe. That's Arne Lohmann Rasmussen, chief analyst at Global Risk Management. Distillates means refined products, diesel, jet fuel, heating oil. Before the war, 30% of Europe's diesel imports and roughly half of its jet fuel came from Middle East refineries. The 2 pipelines everyone keeps pointing to Saudi Aramco's east-west line to Yanbu, and the UAE's pipeline to Fujairah both carry crude, not refined products. They can move barrels. They can't move what a jet engine actually burns. So the European pump price moved before any government statement did. 2,000 ships, 2 choke points, $300 billion of answers. 3 answers. We'll take them one at a time, and we'll watch the math get honest. The first answer is the one that looks the most impressive on a map. The second is the one actually being built. The third is the one Iran would attack first. Start with the map answer. The map answer is a canal through Oman, and on a flat map, it looks brilliant. The problem is that maps are flat, but the Hajar Mountains aren't. Here are the specs that actually matter. The proposal getting headlines is 32 kilometers. The serious engineering proposals run 100 to 180 kilometers because the short route slams into peaks above 2,000 meters, roughly the height of 2 Burj Khalifa stacked. The excavation volume is over 400 million cubic meters of solid rock. The realistic cost, $70 to $100 billion at the low end, $200 billion plus at the ambitious end. The realistic timeline is 20 years, and that's if nothing goes wrong. And then there's the lock problem. Stay with me, this is where the math gets honest. A canal lock works like a giant water elevator. A ship sails in, the door closes behind it. The chamber either fills or drains until the water level matches the next stretch of canal. Then the door in front opens. It's a staircase for ships. That structure is called a lock chamber. The Hajar Canal needs hundreds of them, between 240 and 400, depending on lift profile. Each chamber is roughly 520 meters long and 80 meters wide, larger than many of the world's biggest dams. The plain version, stairs for ships. And every step is a choke point inside the choke point. A ship hit by a drone or missile inside a lock chamber doesn't just sink, it disables the lock. Other ships behind it can't proceed. The canal closes. And according to historical infrastructure data, lock system repair runs in months, not days. Look at the historical anchor. On March 2021, one ship, the Ever Given, grounded in the Suez Canal. No missile, no attack, a sandstorm and a wide ship. It closed Suez for 6 days. That was an accidental grounding in a canal without lock systems. A targeted strike on a ship inside a Hajar Canal lock. That's different math entirely. And it's not just one analyst saying this. Engineering and political risk reviews from Arab News, the Defense Horizon Journal, and independent infrastructure researchers all converge on the same conclusion. The canal is, and this is their language, highly impractical. 20-year timeline, $200 billion plus, 240 to 400 lock chambers. Each one is a target. Pipelines bury, canals exposed. One missile, but two very different repair clocks. So if the canal is that fragile, why is everyone building it? Honestly, almost nobody is. The canal is the documentary, the press release, the hero shot. The project actually breaking ground doesn't run through Oman, it runs through Iraq. Forget the canal for a minute. This project doesn't run through a mountain, it runs through the flattest, oldest trade corridor in human history. Mesopotamia, from the Persian Gulf, straight up through Iraq, into Turkey, out to the Mediterranean. It's the Iraq Development Road. 1,200 kilometers of high-speed rail and modern highway running the full length of Iraq, from Grand Fa port on the Persian Gulf to the Iraqi-Turkish border. From there, it continues through Turkey to Mersin on the Mediterranean and onward to the Bulgarian border at Kapakule. Total Fa to Istanbul leg, roughly 2,100 kilometers. Headline costs $17 billion for the core. Expansion estimates push $20 to $24 billion with escalations. If you take the ambitious $200 billion canal estimates, add this $24 billion railway, and project the Haifa pipeline costs across 2 countries, you're staring at that $300 billion whiteboard. One detail to hold on to: this corridor carries containers, bulk cargo, and passengers, not crude oil. We'll come back to that. What separates this project from the other 2? Concrete that already exists. The first 63 kilometers were inaugurated on December 5th, 2025 by Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani himself. On April 2024, a 4-party memorandum of understanding was signed. Turkey, Iraq, Qatar, and the UAE locking in financing structure. In the second quarter of 2026, Turkey finalized its $17 billion share of the deal. The Turkish parliament ratified the cross-border rail link. 87% of rail design is complete, 73% of highway design is complete. And Grand Fa Port hit its operational milestones this year. Container terminals live, customs infrastructure operational. This is the only one of the 3 mega projects with ground actually broken. Real concrete, real rails, real port of entry construction. 63 kilometers, inaugurated in December 2025. Turkey's $17 billion share was finalized this year. The Iraq Development Road is the only project on this list that isn't a press release. This project will transition Iraq from a rent-based economy to one that actively supports agriculture, industry, and trade. The Iraqi PM frames it as the path from a rent economy to a trade economy, which is the political language. The engineering language is simpler. Concrete is being poured. While the canal argues politics, the railway pours concrete. A real catch sits inside this story. Iraq held parliamentary elections in October. The Turkey-Iraq financing deal is signed, but it awaits post-election ratification on the Baghdad side. And the corridor crosses Kurdistan transit territory, where Iranian-aligned militias maintain operational reach. Construction is real. Construction risk is also real. One thing worth pulling out: Saudi Arabia and the UAE had every reason to build redundant infrastructure to bypass Hormuz any time since the Iranian Revolution in 1979. They didn't. The Iraq Development Road sat on planning desks for at least a decade before any of this construction started. The crisis that finally pushed these projects from paper to concrete is the same crisis that proves they should have been ready 40 years ago. That's the project being built. The third project is different. It depends on a kind of construction concrete can't finish. Diplomatic construction. The third answer isn't a railway. It isn't a canal. It's a pipeline that's been proposed roughly every decade since the 1940s. And that, on a map, looks like the cleanest fix of all. In the middle of the 2026 Hormuz crisis, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu revived a long-running proposal, pipeline Gulf crude across the Arabian Peninsula, through the Israeli desert, to the port of Haifa on the Mediterranean. Bypass Hormuz. Bypass Bab el-Mandeb. Deliver Gulf oil direct to European markets via Israel. By shifting the flow of energy toward the Mediterranean, we can effectively eliminate these choke points. Netanyahu's pitch, Gulf oil through Israel, eliminates Hormuz as a choke point. On paper, the engineering is straightforward. Pipelines are mature technology. The route is mostly flat desert. The Mediterranean port is already built. And that's where the engineering meets reality. According to Ynet News reporting, Saudi Arabia has declined to advance this proposal. The political precondition, full Saudi-Israel normalization, has been called imminent since 2020. It remains unresolved. Without that signature, no pipeline gets built. There's no concrete poured. There's no project office staffed. There is a Knesset statement and a Mediterranean map. The Haifa pipeline isn't an engineering proposal. It's a peace treaty Saudi Arabia hasn't signed. A version of this pipeline already existed. The Trans-Arabian Pipeline, known as TAP-Line, ran Saudi crude from the eastern province through Jordan and into Lebanon, terminating at the Mediterranean. It operated from 1947 until political conflict shut it down in 1990. The infrastructure can be built. The diplomacy is the hard part. It always has been. And one more thing worth pulling out. Earlier I asked which of the three projects Iran would attack first. The canal is too remote. The railway is too distributed. Too many ports, too many financiers, too many kilometers to defend everywhere. That leaves the pipeline. The Haifa line isn't just infrastructure. It crosses the most politically explosive territory in the region. It wouldn't just be an economic target, it would be a political bullseye. So that leaves the question everyone's been dancing around. If the canal is fragile, the railway is years from completion, and the pipeline depends on diplomacy, Saudi Arabia hasn't agreed to what's actually working right now? The answer is the project nobody's making documentaries about. While three megaprojects argue financing in conference rooms, the Saudi Aramco East-West pipeline, built in the 1980s for exactly this scenario, is running at full capacity right now. The pipeline isn't new. It's not glamorous. There's no Hajar Canal CGI reel for it. There isn't a Knesset address about it, but it's the one doing the work today. Here's the proof. On April 8th, Iranian Revolutionary Guard drones struck a pumping station near Yanbu, the Red Sea terminus of the Saudi pipeline. Throughput dropped 700,000 barrels a day. 3 days later, the pipeline was back at full capacity. That's resilience math. A buried pipeline takes the hit, repairs the breach, and resumes flow before salvage crews could even reach a stranded tanker inside a canal lock chamber. The canal is the headline. The pipelines are the homework. Now, the math gets honest. The International Energy Agency puts the current operational ceiling for combined Saudi plus UAE pipeline bypass at 3.5 to 5.5 million barrels a day. The nameplate capacity is 8.8 million. The projected 2027 figure, once the UAE expansion completes, is roughly 10.5 million. None of those numbers reach 20 million. That's the Hormuz baseline. The best case bypass, after every expansion completes, is still only about half of what Hormuz used to move. This is only helping to reduce the pain. It will not be a cure. The cure is opening up the Strait of Hormuz. We are gaining some time, but I don't claim that this will be a solution. That's Fatih Birol, Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, the world's top energy official. He says the bypass infrastructure is pain relief, not a cure. Engineering News Record put it in 12 words. The infrastructure was sized for a short disruption. This is not that. The infrastructure was sized for a short disruption. This is not that. $300 billion of concept. 3.5 million barrels of reality. So here's the inversion. The most ambitious project, the Hajar Canal, is the most vulnerable. Lock system single strike risk. 20-year timeline. The most diplomatic project, the Haifa pipeline, depends on a signature Saudi Arabia hasn't given. The most concrete project, the Iraq Development Road, moves containers and bulk cargo, not oil. And the project, nobody's making documentaries about a 45-year-old Saudi pipeline plus a UAE pipeline being doubled by 2027, is doing the actual work. 3.5 million barrels a day. Right now. Today. Which leaves the question the audience under every Hormuz video keeps asking. If $1 per barrel premium would pay for any of these projects in roughly 40 years, and you and I are already paying that premium at the pump, then the question isn't whether to fund the bypass. It's which bypass is worth funding. The world's top energy official has already called the answer. Fatih Birol said it in April. The bypass infrastructure is reducing pain. It isn't a cure. The cure is opening up the Strait of Hormuz. And in the meantime, Europe is paying for the answer either way. 30% of its diesel imports, half of its jet fuel. The crisis didn't start in a Knesset speech or a project office in Muscat. It started at every fuel pump. The infrastructure was sized for a short disruption. This isn't that, and the next disruption, a Houthi missile, an Iranian drone, a regional miscalculation, isn't that either. So one thought to sit with. $1 per barrel premium on 20 million barrels a day pays for $300 billion of bypass infrastructure in roughly 40 years. Consumers are already paying that premium at the pump, in supply chain costs, in airline tickets. The question isn't whether to fund the bypass. It's which projects to fund. The 32-kilometer canal? The 1,200-kilometer railway? Or another pipeline buried under the desert? If you've got a read on that, drop it below. I want to see the math. The canal is the headline. The pipelines are the homework. And right now, the homework is the only thing actually moving 3.5 million barrels a day. That's the math the next 40 years has to start from.